Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video I thought we would take a look at the Play Arts Kai Batman Arkhamverse figures, which are the figures based on the games. I have almost all of them. I unfortunately sold my original Arkham Asylum Batman and Joker, so I don't have those. I also don't have the gray and or white and black and white variants from Comic-Con from those, and then the only other one I'm missing, I think, unless I'm wrong about something, is the Comic-Con variant of Deathstroke. I did get Batman, but either way, this should be a pretty helpful guide if you are looking to get into these figures now that the new game's coming out. Maybe your interest in them has been rekindled, something like that. So this will be a little bit helpful. These two on the end are both from the original game, Arkham Asylum. And oh, you know, before I get into this, I want to point out the scale is kind of all over the place. The only thing that's obvious is that the Origins figures, which are these 4 or 5 on the end here, 4 if you don't count the Comic-Con one, they're much larger. Obviously, you can compare the two Jokers right there. And then the only real difference in scale is that the original Asylum Batman figures were too short. As you can see, Batman's pretty close to Harley Quinn's height. So then in Arkham City, they made him and Robin eventually taller. So Arkham Asylum and Arkham City figures are all basically in scale, technically. But even then, you can see over here that Joker isn't that much taller than Harley. So it's not great, but once you get into the Arkham City Batman and all of the other characters around him, those are pretty much in scale, and then the Origins figures are kind of in scale, even though Robin's too tall. Which he seems to be always too tall, because this one's really big too. Alright, so here we have Harley Quinn from Arkham Asylum. Really good figure. Some people complain about the likeness, but I think it's even better because it looks better than the in-game model when it comes to her face. So I'm pretty happy with that figure. That's one of my... Actually, they're all pretty good. They all have some flaws, but it's a really good one. And then we have the armored Arkham Asylum Batman, which even though he's a little bit too short, he's one of my favorites out of the entire line just because he looks so good and they did a good job with the proportioning and it looks just really nice. He's got some of the older engineering with the joints and stuff, but still a pretty cool figure. One thing, well, I'll wait a sec, I'll point that out in a second. Here we have Robin from Arkham City. This one's pretty lousy. There's not much I like about this guy, so I really don't recommend it, especially with that Robin down there being much better, and then the new Robin coming out. I would definitely give this guy a pass unless you're really trying to complete some sort of bunch of figures, because he's just, there's so many awkward things about him, it's not great. And here we have the Arkham City Batman, which obviously has the more blue and gray color scheme than the Arkham Asylum Batman. And then the only other major difference with this guy, other than being a little bit taller, is that he has the fixed cape, which is major problematic for posing this guy. The original one had a posable cape, so I really regret getting rid of that. But this guy does look good for the most part. You just have to be aware that the cape is fixed, so it does limit posability quite a bit. And then let's move down to these two skin variants, which the game had tons and tons of skins. So we have the 1970s blue and gray on the left, and then the Batman Returns, or the Dark Knight Returns skin on the right. So this one here, I personally really like it, mostly just because of the color scheme. The proportions are a little bit off, and I could take or leave the wrinkly clothes. You get past that pretty easily. And once you get imposed, the proportions aren't so bad, but he does have a really nice appeal with the lighter blue and the gray. It's a very cool looking figure. And then this guy, I'm not a huge fan of the whole Dark Knight Returns storyline, but this figure, there's something about it that's really fun. I might just be the bulk, because he is massive. Unfortunately, his cape is fixed also, so that does limit the posability, and if you'll notice, the cape is too long for his legs. You have to kind of bunch it up on the shelf, and it's kind of thick, so it's going to be a little hard to pose him in anything other than a very straight up and down standing pose, but still a really cool looking figure. Then over here we have the Arkham City females, which are of course Catwoman, Poison Ivy, and Harley Quinn. They're all pretty well done. The only one that really stands out as being a problem is Ivy, just because she's really hard to stand, so you're going to need to use a display stage with her. For Catwoman and Harley, you shouldn't have too much trouble. They both, even though they have smaller feet, they seem to be easier to get to balance. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because her feet don't have flat bottoms. These guys both do. So that helps. But Catwoman in particular, very nicely designed. The articulation is so smooth. There's not too much lumpiness around the joints. It's all fairly well tucked in, so that's good. And then Harley's pretty much in the same boat, and she has just loads of detail, like the arm tattoo, the tattoo on her hip there, and just all kinds of little details throughout the design. So those are all really good. Ivy has some good details, but a lot of the time she tends to look awkward because her little diaper piece for the crotch is shaded funny. It doesn't really look like it's supposed to be part of her body with like a flowery or leafy underwear thing. I don't know, it just looks weird. Didn't turn out as good as I would have hoped. Top half of her body looks pretty good though. The Arkham City Joker, this is the one that came with the toxin mouth with the green stuff coming out. Is it called toxin? I can't remember what it's called now. It sounded right when I said it, but now it sounds wrong. I don't know. Anyway, Venom? It's Venom, isn't it? I think it's Venom, but I'm confusing those with Spider-Man characters now, so I don't know. Anyway, this is much better than the Arkham Asylum Joker. Still not super great. It's not bad. If you are a Batman fan or a Joker fan, then you'll be okay with it, but I don't expect it to be super impressive. There are a few flaws, even though the character has a ton of detail in it. It's not incredibly well done. Now this guy, on the other hand, parts of him are incredibly well done. My only real major complaint is that the faces don't look so great, but everything else is really nice on this guy, and the larger scale really affords some more detail and just looks really, really good on the shelf, I think. Feels good in your hands, too. I know that sounds funny, but if you collect figures, you know what I mean. Sometimes a figure feels like a quality figure, and sometimes it doesn't. The Origins ones do. They're nice and heavy and solid and well done. And that's not to say hollow figures can't be well done, but when a figure has some weight to it, you tend to assign more value to that, or at least I do sometimes. I don't know. I didn't get much sleep last night, so I'll stop rambling. Next we have Deathstroke, which is a crowd favorite and a fan favorite and one of my favorites because he's a really good figure. Does have some flaws, kind of hard to get those feet aligned where I need them to get him to balance, but he does have so much cool aesthetic value, I think. He's got really nice details, and the paint job's nice, and the sword and the guns and the staff, just everything's cool about Deathstroke, and they captured it really well in that figure. Over here we have the Arkham Origins Robin, which is mostly a good figure. Some people really don't like the blue on the pants and other various places, and I think it's probably more blue than it should be. But otherwise, he's pretty solid. He is definitely better than the other Robin. Mine has a really loose upper torso, but that's not a common problem. It was just a mold defect, so I wouldn't worry about that. And some people say his face looks weird, but I think for the most part it's pretty well done. So I do recommend that. If you have to choose a Robin that's already out, grab that one. And then lastly, we have the Arkham Origins Batman. The one on the left is the standard release, and then the one on the right is the blue and gray, or blue and silver Comic-Con variant. Now, when I first reviewed this guy, I said it looked really, really accurate and was really good. And it's a pretty solid figure, but it's not the most screen-accurate version after looking back on it. A lot of things are kind of stylized. So he's problematic, and he's really hard to stand up because he's super back-heavy, and his ankles don't move the way I would like them to. He does have a nice look to him. I personally prefer this look over here, so I wish they would have done that as the main look. But either one's still pretty good. This guy, I think his problem is that his grays are too black and his blacks aren't black enough. And then he just kind of looks awkward. Still a cool enough figure, but I don't know. I'm really looking forward to the new ones. Although, if I had to choose a Batman out of all of these, if you really have no preference over which design it is, I think I would probably go with the armored Arkham Asylum. He's fairly inexpensive, at least he was last time I looked. And there's a really nice look to them. Of course, they all have their benefits, and each one's going to be a personal judgment based on the design. They all have their pros and cons as far as like accuracy and articulation and stuff. So if you get one, you'll probably be happy with it, but be aware that there are some issues. But mostly, and for the most part, they are pretty awesome. And I love this line, and I'm really looking forward to collecting it for the next game, which comes out on Tuesday. So hopefully these figures ship soon. I have them waiting in my pre-orders, so hopefully they get here soon. There it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.